Imagine you are standing in a crowded room where every person is wearing a perfectly white, smiling mask. You feel a sense of safety, believing you are surrounded by friends and allies who wish you the best. But what happens when the mask begins to slip and you realize the smile was never about genuine affection? Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher of the heights and the depths, warned us about the good and the just more than any other group. He understood that what we often celebrate as kindness is actually a form of spiritual and physical impotence. Many people are good only because they lack the teeth to be bad and the courage to be honest. They have traded the intensity of life for the safety of the herd, becoming what Nietzsche called domesticated animals. In this exploration, we will dive into the psychological reality of those who hide behind a veneer of courtesy. You will learn to distinguish between true virtue and the harmlessness that breeds a deep, festering resentment. Stay until the end, because the final behavior reveals the terrifying price the good will make you pay for your greatness. The first sign of inauthentic niceness is a complete and total lack of an edge in one's character. These individuals never disagree with the prevailing opinion, and they never say no to a request, regardless of its cost. You might believe this is a sign of a flexible and supportive nature, but Nietzsche saw it as a sign of weakness. He argued that a man who has no sword and does not know how to use one cannot be truly virtuous. To Nietzsche, virtue is power under voluntary control, not the absence of power or the inability to act with force. If someone is nice only because they are too afraid to be anything else, their kindness has no real value. It is merely a defensive strategy used to avoid the risks associated with having a distinct personality or a strong will. When you encounter someone who never pushes back, you are not dealing with a saint, but with a shadow. They lack the internal substance required to stand for anything, which makes them fundamentally unreliable when a real crisis arrives. To regain control, you must stop valuing their compliance and start demanding the honesty of a sharp, clear disagreement. The second sign is an overwhelming sense of moral self-righteousness that permeates every conversation they have. These people frequently talk about how kind they are, using their niceness as a social badge or a shield. They frame their actions as selfless sacrifices, ensuring that everyone around them feels a subtle sense of debt. Nietzsche warned that the good and the just use morality as a weapon to pull down those who stand out. They do not want you to be better. They want you to be as small and predictable as they are. By constantly highlighting their own goodness, they create a standard that punishes anyone with a different perspective or a stronger drive. This is not true morality, but a form of psychological manipulation designed to secure their own social status through pity. They use their supposed virtue to make your natural ambitions look like a form of greed or coldness. If someone constantly reminds you of their kindness, they are likely using it to hide a deep desire for control. True strength does not need to announce its own benevolence because it is confident in its own inherent value. The third sign is a chronic avoidance of conflict, even when the situation clearly calls for a firm and direct truth. These individuals would rather lie to your face to keep the peace than tell a difficult truth that could help you. Nietzsche despised the petty virtues of politeness when they were used to replace grand virtues like honesty and intellectual rigor. He saw this behavior as a betrayal of the self and a sign of a cowardly spirit. When someone avoids conflict at all costs, they are prioritizing their own comfort over the growth and well-being of others. They fear the disruption of the social atmosphere more than they value the integrity of the truth. This makes them dangerous because you can never trust the feedback they give you regarding your life or your choices. They will cheer for you while you walk off a cliff just to avoid the awkwardness of shouting a warning. Real friendship requires the capacity to be a critic and the courage to offer a stinging yet necessary perspective. If you find yourself surrounded by people who never challenge you, you are living in a garden of pleasant lies. The fourth sign is the use of pity as a depressant to drain the energy of those who are strong. Nietzsche observed that pity is often a way for the weak to multiply suffering rather than actually curing any problem. When someone is too nice, they often indulge in excessive pity for others, encouraging them to stay in their misery. They do not want you to overcome your struggles because your success would make them feel even more inadequate. Instead, they offer a soft shoulder and a listening ear that subtly reinforces your identity as a victim. They treat your potential like a fragile glass that must never be stressed or tested by reality. Nietzsche believed that we should seek companions who challenge our strength, not those who coddle our weaknesses. The too nice person uses their sympathy to keep you tethered to the ground, preventing you from ever taking flight. They want to be the healer of a wound that they secretly hope will never truly close or fully heal. You must reject the comfort of their pity and seek the cold, invigorating air of those who demand greatness. The fifth sign is the presence of hidden spite, also known as the psychological concept of resentment. Because the nice person suppresses their natural aggressive instincts, those instincts rot and turn into a toxic passive aggression. They are extremely kind to your face but are prone to backbiting and gossip when you are not there. They harbor a deep-seated bitterness toward anyone who is more creative, more vital, or more successful than they are. Nietzsche described this as slave morality, where the weak define their own impotence as a superior moral choice. They cannot compete with your strength, so they try to dismantle your reputation with whispers and subtle social shaming. They use moral judgment as a needle to prick the balloon of your spirit whenever you begin to rise. This hidden sting is the primary way they vent the anger they are too afraid to express directly or honestly. If you feel a sudden, unexplainable drop in your social standing, look to the person who is always too polite. Their mask of courtesy is the only thing protecting them from the realization of their own deep and burning envy. The sixth sign is a total surrender to the herd instinct and a demand for universal social conformity. The too nice individual fears anyone who shows a pathos of distance or a sense of being different. They want everyone to be exactly the same, seeking only their little pleasure for the day and the night. Nietzsche called this archetype the last man, the ultimate endpoint of a society that prioritizes comfort above all. To the nice person, an original thinker or a rebel is a threat to the stability of the collective. They will use their niceness to pressure you back into the middle of the road where it is safe. They view your unique spark as a fire that needs to be extinguished before it burns the comfortable house down. If you are being shamed into conformity by someone who claims to have your best interests at heart, beware. They are not protecting you from danger. They are protecting themselves from the discomfort of your individuality. The final and most dangerous sign is their tendency to become the crucifiers of anything new or great. Nietzsche noted that history's greatest creators were usually destroyed not by evil people, but by the good and just. The nice person is the primary defender of the status quo, because they have invested everything in their social mask. When someone presents a new value or a challenging idea, the nice person is the first to find it offensive. They use their collective power to cancel or exclude anyone who disrupts the peaceful sleep of the herd. Their kindness is a velvet glove that hides an iron fist of exclusion for anyone who dares to be different. They believe that by being good, they have earned the right to judge and punish those who are great. This is the ultimate betrayal of the human spirit, turning the potential for growth into a stagnant pool of compliance. Your mission is to recognize these masks and choose the path of authentic strength over the trap of harmlessness. Do not be afraid to have an edge, to speak the truth, and to embrace the beast that lives within you. By integrating your shadow, you become capable of true virtue, which is the discipline to be dangerous yet controlled. Nietzsche's warning was not to be cruel, but to be strong and honest in a world that fears the light. Stop seeking the approval of those who only love you for your compliance and start building your own inner dignity. Have you ever encountered someone whose niceness felt like a trap or a way to control your own behavior? Which of these 7 signs resonated most with your own personal experiences in your social or professional life? Join those who choose strength, clarity, and the wisdom to see through the masks of the modern world. Your journey toward becoming fully yourself requires the courage to walk away from the herd and its false promises. See you soon for another deep exploration of philosophy and the hidden realities of human psychology.